Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Expendable Show. I'm your host, the Expendable. First, if you like my show, like, subscribe, and ding the bell. Sorry, I was having technical difficulties there for a minute. I don't know what it looked like on your part. I must have been pushing some buttons or something. But welcome to my show. Like, subscribe, ding the bell. So this is where either all of your dreams come true, or this is where I get to propagate you to think the things that I want you to think. I mean, at least if I'm going to report the news, I might as well be truthful about what I'm doing, right? I mean, at least, CNN don't do that. Neither does Fox. So, I figured, I might as well just tell the truth. I'm just going to propagate you to think how I want you to think. So, yeah, so there's a lot to cover. We have Donald Trump had his joint address to Congress, and I have maybe one word, two words, I don't know, but it was masterful and epic. It was the single most greatest thing I've ever seen. Donald Trump did everything right. I don't think I've ever seen him this good. And he's been very good in the past. But this he's not, I don't think he can top this. I don't think he can top it. So, I mean, there's some serious things that he did that I'm going to highlight and tell you guys about today. So, for one, it was the longest joint session speech in history. So, Trump, there we go, breaking more records. So he came out and he did his little introductions, and then he goes, "America is back." And the whole place just went crazy. Well, except for the liberal side. They don't like America, so they didn't go crazy. But Trump did a phenomenal job of opening up. As soon as he did that, like, I was just kind of going through the motions at first, and then he did that. I was off my seat. I was like, yeah, let's go. America. So that excited me. I was very happy with that. So he went through first. He talked about all of his accomplishments, and that took like 45 minutes in itself. The dude's done nothing but create accomplishments since he walked into the office. So he went through that. He's done more in 6 weeks or however long he's been in office than any president in 4 years, probably 8 years, just like he said. I agree with him. He talked about the 2024 election and his wide mandate, and that was triggering. Some people got triggered there. Now, it's trigger warning. If you say the word mandate, liberals lose their mind. So they want to say that it's only considered a mandate if he gets 50% of the vote or 50.1 or something like that. Listen, when you get every swing state, the popular vote by majority, the Electoral College, by the amount that he beat her by in the Electoral College, which was astronomical, and the Supreme Court, and the House and the Senate, that's 6 things that you got. That's a mandate, my friends. Mandate. Get used to it. It's a mandate. I don't care. What power do you have to stop anything? Left? Nothing. You have no power. You're going to have to go bribe or manipulate some Republicans to get anything you want. And that's not going to happen because Trump's watching Congress like a hawk. And so during this triggering, Texas Representative Al Green, and everybody probably saw it. If you watched it or you've seen it on the news, everybody's covering it, how much of an idiot he looked. So he was escorted out of President Trump's joint address after interrupting the speech, and then he wouldn't sit down after Speaker Johnson politely told him to sit down several times. And he just refused. So then while he was talking, the Republican side started chanting USA, which is really triggering for Democrats because they are anti-USA. House Speaker Johnson warned Representative Green to maintain congressional decorum. They were in session, so it's not. That's where a lot of people on the left are posting all over social media, like, "Oh, free speech," and then he kicks out Al Green. Listen, you're in session. There are rules to being in session. It's not just like being out on the street, like where you have free speech. When you're in session, you have to abide by the laws that are set forth by Congress. So, yeah, you violated decorum. Period. That's what happened. So Green ended up, he was shouting, "You don't have a mandate." But as I explained, Donald Trump does have a mandate. Call it whatever you want. I don't care. It's still going to be a mandate. You can call it a maybe mandate or a imaginary mandate. It's still a mandate. I don't care. You can't stop him from doing anything because you have the minority in everything now. Minority, majority, mandate, minority, nothing. That's how it works. So then eventually he wouldn't stop. So Representative Johnson said, "Off with his head." He didn't say that, but he asked the Sergeant of Arms to kindly remove Mr. Green from the facility, and he did. I was kind of hoping he would resist so they'd have to put him down. I was waiting. I was like, put this dude on the ground. I want to see these guys just smash him. But it didn't happen. I think he thought about it. You could tell he was like hesitant at first, and he's like, "Well, I better get out of here because I'm going to get embarrassed." Because these dudes they're about that business. They will put you on the ground. So then Green was running his mouth later. He told reporters he was protesting Trump's claim of having a mandate to cut Medicaid and mentioned that he was working on articles of impeachment. Good luck. Good luck with that. This indictment was part of a broader display to protest from some Democratic lawmakers. Blah, blah, blah. They were holding up their little signs that said Elon steals and we're losers and we can't properly get our party together to do anything productive. We don't have any platforms other than Trump bad guy. We don't even know what we stand for anymore because we've hyper focused on Trump such a horrible human being for the last 4 years. But they don't get it. They still don't get it. I don't get how they don't get it. It's insane. It's insane. I don't understand. I don't understand their ideologies. I don't understand their political strategy. I don't claim to be a political strategist genius, but I do know a little bit about how to kind of structure things to kind of create a base for your platform. And they just don't do it. They don't do anything. They just get on TV and say, "Trump's horrible, Trump's horrible, Trump's horrible." That's it. What plans? Like, you guys can still propose plans to Congress. You can still come up with your own proposed bills and referendums and memorandums. You can do all that, but you don't because you hyper focus on Trump all day long. Well, guess what? Hyper focus on Trump. His cabinet already knows what to do. They don't. Trump doesn't even have to shout orders because he picked the exact right people that he wanted, and they already know what they're supposed to be doing. So hyper focus on Trump all you want. His guys are going to go in unattended, unopposed, and doing what they want. Sorry, Shauna, I can't. The thing won't let me add you in at the same time while the podcast is going on for some reason. It's not cooperating with me. But yes, you are right, Shauna. They've been lying for so long that they do believe their own lies. That is a fact. That is a fact. And I know, Shauna, that your favorite politician's Al Green. So I'm sorry he got kicked out of the joint sessions last night. I'm sure you're heartbroken. I did see you crying at your desk today. I'm sure that's probably what that was about. And it's okay. It's okay to cry sometimes. Just so you know. Now, what? So I got distracted during the speech also, and I stayed up last night and watched it. Plus, I had to do two different political analysis for two different TV stations because I'm famous now. and somehow, but I'm famous in India. That's it. I might have a mansion there, and I don't even know it yet. But I was distracted watching JD Vance and Mike Johnson most of the night because one thing that I really liked about them back there was they showed their humanity because they were laughing at stuff and they were giggling and like I saw JD Vance almost fall on the floor. He was when and we'll get to it. I'll show you the clip because I got it brought up. But JD Vance was funny. He was having a tough time like keeping his laughter. You know how Nancy Pelosi gets up there and she just scowls and then she does her little hot hands and then she does this again. So I don't know what she's doing, but she's not enjoying herself. I saw 3 guys on that camera all night that were enjoying themselves. They were excited about America. They were excited about the direction that this country's going, and they were backing their president 100%. We haven't seen something like this in a very, very long time, probably since Reagan, to be honest. I know probably on the Democrat side, it was probably Obama. It seemed like everybody was pretty gung-ho about him until they realized that he wasn't really a much to talk about. He ended up being a flop, the presidential flop. That somehow thought he still has power, but he couldn't even use every resource known to man that he had at his disposal to defeat Donald Trump. So it shows how smart you are, Obama. But I'm being a little bit more blue. My blood's still flowing from last night. I'm still America first in it right now. So I do want to touch on the his honorees last night because not only did Trump have his one-liners that I thought resonated well with viewers, he also showed his humanitarian side. And I really like that because he's been doing more of that since he started running for president this time. We didn't see a lot of it in the first term, but in this term, we're seeing more of the humanitarian side of Trump. I think it's always been there, but I think the media has Trump has kept it out of the media, where now we're seeing it more and more in the media. When Trump's on TV, you're seeing more of a humanitarian. And even when Al Green was freaking out because his emotional support cat wasn't with him, that Donald Trump stayed very poised. Like he had his stank face on. If you go back and watch it, Trump had his stank face. He was staring down Al Green and he was not happy. But he didn't say anything. He was very calm and collected, which is not normal for him. Usually he would have something fly to say, but he held it together very presidentially. I thought if you have to give one adjective to how last night was, it was the ultimate president. He was very presidential. And I just don't think we have a lot of that in this world anymore. So to go on to his honorees, I just want to touch base with that because I think their stories are miraculous. And I think when we see people that are in the public light for going through basically hell, and emotional distress, physical distress, defying odds, like that kind of stuff resonates with me. And I really like that, those stories. And I don't want people to have to ever suffer in life, but we're seeing, some positive things come out of these stories, which I think if you have to go through something traumatic, that having something positive come through. And they're showing Donald Trump with the young man right now that we're about to talk. Trump brought him to the Oval Office today. More humanitarian. So we're going to talk about that young man here in a second. So during Trump's speech, he honored several individuals, including Peyton McNabb. She was a high school volleyball player who was injured by a transgender opponent. McNabb suffered a concussion. She had brain bleed and she has permanent whiplash after she was spiked in the face. she was very happy to be there. She was very happy that Donald Trump has made a national ban on transgenders in women's sports. I just think that's the right thing to do. Just like I said on the news last night, it's an 80-20 issue in favor of banning transgenders in women's sports. This is a no-brainer. You have 80% of the country wants to keep transgenders out of women's sports. Perhaps if it's that big of an issue, maybe there does need to be a transgender division in sports. I don't know what the right answer for them is. I think that's as close as you're going to get. Just like we were talking, there was a marathon or something, and a transgender competed in the women's event and broke the record by 5 hours. Like that's unheard of. We have to stop those kinds of things. If we don't, then it's going to be pointless for a woman. It'll be pointless for a woman to compete, and we've set women back from their rights a century, and that's not good. Women fought hard to get where they are today, where they're in positions where they can be viewed as equals, and they can have power in government, they can have power in their jobs, and be respected. And now we're defacing women again. And I'm glad President Trump stopped that. And I know that young lady, Peyton McNabb, is happy about it as well. So Trump also highlighted the Allison and Lauren Phillips, which is the mother and sister of Laken Riley, which I thought about it. So I was in Athens, Georgia, over the weekend visiting my daughter and my granddaughter. And I was right there. Like the place that we went to was very, very close to where Laken Riley was killed. So it did pop up in my mind, and I thought about it. I was like, where did this happen at? So I looked it up, and we were like I was literally a block away from there. And so it really made me put that into perspective, that she was just mercilessly killed for nothing. And I'm glad that Georgia did such a good job of putting all of all the legislation for Laken Riley in place. I wish Biden would have done it. It was the wrong thing to do to allow this mass immigration, and people lost their lives. And the irony, and I'm going to touch on it after all this, not one Democrat stood up and clapped for Laken Riley's family. Not one. It's a disgrace. So, also, Alexis Nungare. So her 12-year-old daughter was killed by two individuals who entered the country illegally. That's a tragedy. And it looks like that family's still suffering. It was a pretty emotional thing for her to go through. And I feel bad. It's just another situation where it should never have happened. And or at least the percentage of probability would have been so low that it might not have happened. I mean, you're not gonna stop every single person from crossing the border, but you can stop a large portion of them, just like Donald Trump has already shown. Illegal crossings are down 95% right now from the last day of Biden's office. So that's a huge step in the right direction. And, we do need to encourage migrants to choose the pathway to citizenship. There is a pathway, and they need to choose that way. Otherwise, the next 4 years is going to be rough. In reality, America needs immigration. I was just talking about this at work today. America needs immigration. We can't function this country without having immigration. So it's not that we don't welcome immigration. We just welcome it the right way. It is a proven fact. We have more jobs in the United States of America than we have working class people. So we need, and you got to think, the baby boomers is a large population, and they've all retired out. So the workforce is even a little bit more slim now. So and our birth rates are down. So we have a brewing issue. So, and that just came off the top of my head. I didn't even plan to say that. I just know things. But we need immigration. So let's get it done. Let's close the border and let's get immigration done the right way so we can bring people in and we can either, get them to work, get people the skill sets they need to do these jobs here in America that we need filled. So there's work to do. There are things we need to do as a country to start to initiate these things. So I'm really excited to see how we go from closing the border to how do we utilize the legal migrants that are coming into the country the right way. So hats off to Donald Trump for solving a very, very what everybody thought was a very difficult problem, but turned out to be a real easy solve. It shows you competency level. So Alexis Nungare, her daughter, in honor, Trump went and named a wildlife sanctuary after her daughter, which her daughter's name was Jocelyn. So there's in Texas, I think it was in Galveston. He renamed it, Jocelyn Nungare's Wildlife Refuge. So I thought that was a really nice gesture. Her name will forever live, and it's not going to fix the hole in her mother's soul, but at least you're seeing, acts of humanity, and there's going to be remembrance. Now, Mark Fogel, he was a teacher from Pennsylvania who was released from a Russian prison as part of an exchange brokered by Donald J. Trump. Trump got Fogel out of prison. Biden couldn't do it. So Trump made a promise to Mark Fogel's mom. He said, I will get your son back. Boom. Within the first month, he had him back. That just shows you, just go do it. Just go do it, mate. America is the biggest, baddest boy on the block. Take your big stick and walk over to Russia and say, give me my people or I'm going to swing the stick. It's not that hard. I don't want to say it like this, but it's kind of like how the Democrats view us white people using white supremacy. Just if you got it, use it. It's like, it's not that hard. I don't ever use white supremacy. That's bad. But I'm not ashamed to be a white person. There you go. There's my gist for the day. So the young man I want to talk about, who Donald Trump just had in the Oval Office today, his story is phenomenal, and I love it. And that whole moment with him, with this young man and his dad, it is going to forever stick in my mind as one of the coolest humanitarian things that Donald Trump's ever done. So during the session, President Trump honored 13-year-old DJ Daniels by making him the kid. All he's ever wanted to do is be a cop. So Donald Trump promoted him from being a cop. I guess he was already an honorary cop in like dozens of precincts. But Donald Trump gave him a raise, gave him a promotion, and now he's an honorary Secret Service agent. And the look on that kid's eyes when Donald Trump promoted him is going to be priceless. So the story behind him is he was diagnosed with brain cancer in 2018. They only gave him 5 months to live. And here we are. He's still fighting, and he's going to beat this. I feel it. So, these positive things, these positive attitude things that Donald Trump probably boosted this young man up, and he's going to be stronger than ever now, just by Trump's humanitarianism. So I thought that was a really cool gesture, and the crowd loved it. The Republicans were going crazy for that one. It was a touching thing, and I really enjoyed seeing that. And then Trump had him at the Oval Office today, letting him hang out. So I thought that was even cooler. So good things are happening, man. I mean, they could say Trump's a bad guy all day and all night, but look at these things he's doing. Trump praised DJ's perseverance and gave him an honorary badge. Like, it looked legit. This kid had a legit Secret Service ID, I'm pretty sure. So it was cool. It was super cool. So he did talk about the Ukraine as well. And I think, you know what? Has anybody ever come across this? I get yelled at all the time by saying the Ukraine. The Ukraine. I always say the in front of it. I don't know why, but that's what my brain wants me to do. But everybody keeps telling me, like, it's not the Ukraine. It's just Ukraine. Whatever. We don't get mad when we say the Ohio State University. That's like a badge of honor for us. But whatever. I'm still going to say the Ukraine. Because that's just how my brain likes it. So he was conciliatory towards Ukraine. I just did it opposite that time. Whatever. President Zelensky, he expressed his displeasure, but he did also say, "Hey, I'm open to get these peace talks done." Now, it's going to take President Zelensky to sit down and do it, and that's what I thought he did a really good job articulating the U.S. position when it comes to Ukraine, because Putin's sitting there and he's waiting to negotiate. He's been ready to negotiate. And Zelensky's just not doing it. And I think he's getting influence from the left Democrats. He's getting influence from Europe to keep this war going. Also, he has his own personal interest vested in this. So his term ended a year ago, right? So they're under martial law right now, which allows him to extend his presidency. If the war ends, martial law gets lifted. And guess what? Zelensky's not president anymore, and they have to hold an election. And Zelensky does have a 57% approval rating, according to lamestream media. But that's down. When this war first started, Zelensky had a 90% approval rating. So Zelensky's favorability is dropping. And the longer this war goes on, the worse his country is gonna think of him, because the world knows now that Putin and Trump have both come to the table and said, let's negotiate a deal. And Zelensky keeps turning his back on peace. Fact. It's a fact. And all you liberals out there and you Ukraine supporters can be mad all you want and say that Trump's partnering up with Putin. But you've got Putin, who's the bad guy, and Trump, who you say is the bad guy, saying, let's have peace. But Zelensky don't want it. Europe doesn't want it. The left doesn't want it. Why would you not want peace? Why? What's war good for? Absolutely nothing. We all know the song. Nothing. It's not good for nothing. It just makes rich people rich. It makes the private industries all get rich off of all the money. Military complex gets rich. Everybody gets rich except American taxpayers. We have the opportunity to end the war. It needs to get done. Trump has made it very, very adamant that he is going to keep working towards that. I saw a meme today that I'm going to bring up. It was funny. So it said, breaking news, Vladimir Putin is willing to negotiate a peace deal between Trump and Zelensky. I thought that was priceless. I should have stole it. I don't know where I think I saw it on Facebook, but I should have stole that thing, man, because that is the best meme I've seen all day, probably all week. So Trump also mentioned Canada and the tariffs. So the tariffs are a problem for Canada. The tariffs are going to hit us just a bit. And Trump explained that. He said, look, we may have to take a couple lumps, but we'll be okay. So what tells me that the tariffs are working is just today, right? Money. I like your $ smiley face with a dollar tongue. That's cool. It's a new one. I haven't seen that one. Not with the $ eyes. What the tariffs are doing to Canada. Canada's trying to play tough, but you have to remember they have a sub $3 trillion GDP. They have a financial problem. They depend on American goods, just like we depend on some Canadian things. However, we can survive the trade war with Canada. And I'm going to call it a trade war. I know the right doesn't want to call it a trade war, but I'm going to call it a trade war because it is a war. We're putting our foot down and saying, Canada, you're going to stop screwing us. because what the media is not telling you is before Trump got into office, Canada had over 100 to 200%, to some was even up to 300% tariffs on eggs, butter, things, poultry, things like that, stuff that we want to buy off of them. But they make the tariffs so high, it's almost not worth it. But we do it because we're supposed to be a peaceful trade partner. And you know who screwed that up? Bill Clinton did when he created NAFTA. NAFTA was a scam and a disaster. And when Donald Trump took out NAFTA, that was one of the most brilliant things ever, because it still allowed for Canada and Mexico to specify certain things they did want to tariff when America didn't tariff anything on them. So we build up this deficit, and it's not fair. So for what Trump is doing to Canada is fair. Now, Canada's going to create a reciprocal trade of 25% across the board, apparently. That's fine. Do it. You think you're the only people who have trees? You think you're the only people who has oil? You think you're the only people that has butter and poultry and all the other shit you guys make in Canada? It's an open market. There's trees everywhere. All people make this stuff all over the world. We just do business with Canada because they're our neighbor and it's the neighborly thing to do. Now they're not being very neighborly. They're allowing drugs to come into our country and kill our Americans. So that's a problem. That's not being very neighborly. So I think tariffs are just. Now, just today, Justin Trudeau calls up Trump. That's how you know the tariffs are working, because now Justin Trudeau's calling up Trump going, hey, is there anything we can do, buddy? We can't do this. He's begging Trump to end the tariffs because he knows, for one, it's going to destroy his economy. For two, Justin Trudeau's up for a re-election, and he has a 22% approval rating right now. He can't afford to have their economy crash in an election cycle year in Canada. He's done. 22%, he's already done. That's a worse approval rating than Congress. And Congress is horrible. I think Congress was at 28%. But it's up from like the 14% they were at. So these things are a problem. And Canada's going to they're going to cave. Canada's going to cave. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. Canada's going to cave. And it's going to be at America's benefit. Oh, so my dad just fact checked me. So I did see this. They're going to do a censure vote tomorrow on Al Green. They're going to censor him. He's going to sit right next to Shifty Shift, and they're going to hold hands and not talk. That'll happen. He made a mockery of himself. He did make a statement. He said, well, I'll take whatever punishment comes my way. Fine. Death. The guillotine. But we're not going to do that because we can't do stuff like that. My dad also said that Alberta, Canada wants to be the 51st state. So wouldn't that be fantastic if we could take a hunk of land? Maybe we can't take all of Canada, but what if Alberta votes to secede from Canada? Now, I'm also hearing word that Canada is in probate. So I don't know how true that is. I'm waiting on more information. But if that's true, then Canada has some real big problems that they may not be able to financially function as a country. And that would allow the United States to obtain Canada. So if that's true, I don't know. You know, I'm just here to manipulate you, not tell you any facts. So China made some bold statements today about the tariffs after the speech. They said, we'll do whatever war is necessary. Well, come on, China. Come on. You know what? I'm gonna let China in on a little secret. This is horrible for me to say, but just to draw comparisons, we have a lot of Chinese people in Atlanta, and they get beat up by the people in the hood all the time. So imagine if you decide you want to have a war with us. I'm sending everybody from the hood, and you guys are done. It's over with. China's done because they can't hang with the hood. It's on the news all the time. There's always some Chinese person getting beat up by someone from the hood. Shauna, tell them. So I'm not worried about China. They're always saying something. They're always like, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And then they just go back over there with their red panda and go take a nap. Like, I'm not taking you seriously. You get some countries like that they talk and talk and talk. Like, okay, China, when was the last time you were in a war? Like 700 years ago? Like, get out of here. You're not ready for all that. You might have a big military and you got some cool little toys, but we do war here. China doesn't not have so much experience in war. Sorry. We do that. America does war. So Trudeau did talk about things today. Trump said that until you guys make a better effort to get the fentanyl out of the borders and start catching it from coming in here, I'm not lifting the tariffs. So I think that's going to happen. I think Trudeau's going to come up with some kind of plan and say, hey, we're going to designate this X amount of resources to combat fentanyl coming into the United States, which they should do it anyway. Why would Canada want fentanyl in their country? So why aren't they figuring out how is the fentanyl getting into Canada? Maybe do something about that. Maybe fight the fentanyl in your own country, and that'll prevent it from getting to our country. I mean, you are the top hat of America. Get it together. So the kind of the last thing I want to talk about with Trump's speech, the most miraculous speech that there ever was, is that the liberal commies, they didn't stand at all during any of the honorees in their stories. I thought that the left was too hyper-focused on protesting Donald Trump, and they end up disrespecting the honorees. And I think it's a travesty, and I think that they should be held accountable at the polls. If they don't have a heartbeat for these people that were there as Trump's guests, then they're not going to have a heartbeat for their constituency. They weren't there representing their constituency at all. They were there to create problems and be disruptive. So there you go. Donald Trump, best speech ever. Okay, so real quick before we end the show today is I'm going to discuss some of the stuff that has been released on the Epstein Files, and then I'll give you a quick synopsis of what that means. So let's talk about the flight log. Okay, so there's years and years. It goes all the way back to 1991. So it took me hours and hours to go through the flight log itself, which no liberals are doing. They're just posting whatever. Donald Trump was on there. Yeah, he was. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So in 1994, Donald Trump, it was May 15th, 1994. Donald Trump borrowed Jeffrey Epstein's airplane. He took a one-day trip, was picked up in Panama at PBI, which is Palm Beach Airport, Palm Beach International, and he was taken to Washington, D.C. to Ronald Reagan. That same day, whatever he was doing in Washington, he concluded his business, got back on Epstein's plane, and flew back to Palm Beach. He did that in one day. And he had his daughter, Tiffany, the nanny, Mark Middleton, and I think Marla, that might have been his first wife. I'm not sure. I didn't look into it that much. But some lady named Marla was on there. But he was basically in there with his family. So, yeah, he was on Epstein's airplane with his family, took a one-day trip to go conduct business in Washington, D.C. Didn't go anywhere near Epstein Island, by the way. So, I mean, for me, when you compare it to the next clown I'm going to talk about, is nothing. Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton has an extensive history with Epstein's airplane and Jeffrey Epstein and Epstein Island. So Bill Clinton took a 4-day trip with Epstein, and they flew all over the place, partying. Then again, this was in 2002. Again, 2 months later, he took another trip with Jeffrey Epstein. Then 2 months later, he took a week-long vacation with Jeffrey Epstein to Jeffrey Epstein's island. And on that flight, Sean is going to get mad at me. because it talks about one of our locals from Lithonia. On that flight, that week-long trip, Kevin Spacey was on there. We know how much of a train wreck he is. And Chris Tucker. So he had, and Epstein was there, and Ghislaine, I believe. Then again, in 2003, Bill Clinton went again with President Andre Pastrana. They took a trip together on Epstein's airplane. Then again, in November of that same year, 2003, he took a 5-day vacation with Jeffrey Epstein. So you're going to talk about a 1-day trip, just basically to be on the airplane long enough to fly on it and be in DC long enough just to conduct some business real quick and then fly right back the same day. You're going to call that a smoking gun? I think not. Now, there are several people along with Bill Clinton, notable people. I didn't cover every single famous person that was on the airplane. Some of them people are irrelevant to me. But Prince Andrew is on there a lot. Alan Dershowitz is on there a lot. A lot. So those of you who don't know who Alan Dershowitz, he's a lawyer. That's a Democrat. Now, I'm going to read off a list of the celebrities that are in Ghislaine Maxwell's business black book. The first one is very interesting. And if I would have looked at this a year ago, I would have not said this name. Rufus and Sally Albemarle, famous for the Albemarle mine in North Carolina with the lithium in it. Interesting? Yes, quite. Alec Baldwin, David Blaine, Tony Blair, David Copperfield, Richard Branson. Sorry, guys, Jimmy Buffett. Sorry. I know. Maybe that's what cheeseburger in paradise really means. Think about that. Cheeseburger in paradise. We've been looking at it all wrong. It's not about cheeseburgers. Phil Collins, Minnie Driver, the Duchess of York, the Duke of York, Chris Evans, Ralph Fiennes, Steve Forbes, Dustin Hoffman, Liz Hurley, Mick Jagger, Michael Jackson. Don't do it. Don't do it, Mike. Andrew Cuomo, who's trying to run for mayor or something. Mayor of New York, I think. There you go. Epstein list. Vote him in, Democrats. We know you will. Ted Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, Henry Kissinger, Vera Wang, Courtney Love, Fox's own Rupert Murdoch, Andres Pastrana, who's a president, Ron Perlman, who is a very mouthy person on Twitter. I can't stand him on Twitter. X. Thomas Pritzker. Does that name sound familiar? Oh, yes, he is a relative of the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, old chubby himself. Joan Rivers, Jessica Rothschild, Hannah Rothschild, Edward Rothschild, Evelyn Rothschild, Jeffrey Sachs, Maria Shriver, Saudi Prince Solomon, Peter Soros, Kevin Spacey, Chris Tucker, John Kerry, Les Wexner, David Rockefeller, Oliver Sacks, the White House. Private number is in there. There you go. That's all we know so far. So what does this mean? What can we take from this? Absolutely nothing right now. It's just names in an airplane ledger, and it's names in a black book. There's no evidence amongst that information. Now, there's more that is going to be harmful. They did redact a lot of stuff out of there. So those were considered the people that are under investigation or under indictment right now. They can't release that until the case has been concluded. Because a lot of people don't know, if you take a plea deal, the evidence never existed, so it goes away. But if you get found guilty, all your evidence gets released. So plea deals actually help you from revealing the specifics of the truth of the crimes that you commit, for those of you who don't know that. So it means nothing. Epstein's, it's a nice list. There's people on there I would want to, know a little bit more information about. However, it's not enough to point the finger at a crime. It's not enough to point the finger at getting someone indicted. These are just basically lists to, maybe have some auditors or some forensic people start looking into some people. That's it. But I do know that Pam Bondi has a lot of files of Epstein's case on her desk still. I think she had to basically fight the FBI New York office to get it, because they were trying to keep it from her. And she found out from a whistleblower and ended up getting it. So she said there's thousands more pages. So she's going through them and she'll probably be releasing. She calls this phase 1. So if there's a phase 1, there's probably going to be a phase 2, right? So I'm going to wait on phase 2 before I start talking too much and saying too many things. Also Barack Obama's on there. I forgot that one. Barack Obama is highlighted in the book for some reason. But that's going to be it for the day. We covered a lot of information, and hopefully everybody's excited about Trump as I am. And, maybe Trudeau will wisen up and end his end of the trade problem. And maybe Zelensky will wisen up and decide to make a peace deal this week. You never know. Every day is an adventure with President Trump. So, he could get somebody to do anything. But I'm out. Everybody be safe and know where your kids are at. And watch out for the creepy, crazy people. I'm out. Peace.